Okay, so here's a drawing tutorial. I'm gonna teach you how to draw a person. Not that I'm like the best artist ever, but anyway. So we're going to draw Minax, and what I did was I drew something like a little piece of the drawing, then took a picture, then did the next step, then took a picture. So there's every step with a picture of what I'm going to draw. And so I'm using lined paper so that you can kind of see the lines and see how big things are in relation to each other. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to make a head, and it looks kind of like this picture. It's kind of like an egg, except upside down. It's not like a complete circle, it's not a complete oval, it's thinner on the bottom than on the top. I usually make my heads too big at first by mistake, but that's okay because you can always erase and make it smaller later if you need to. This one took me 3 tries just to get it right, so don't ever settle. If you don't like something, just erase it and try it again. Okay, there's the head. Step 2, add some lines to make a neck. I tend to make really unrealistically super thin and extremely narrow necks. You can do a more realistically sized neck if you want. Necks are actually as wide as your head in real life, but for some reason I tend to draw these tiny little stick necks. And anyway, the 2 lines that form the neck curve toward each other. Okay, these lines here that curve downward are markings of about where the shoulders will end up. I usually draw my shoulders too broad at first, just like I draw the head too big, but you can do some erasing and redoing later. Okie dokie. And let's see, I have notes here. Looking at my notes. What's the next thing I did? Next thing I did was the torso. Minax is really skinny, so for this drawing I'm going to make him not have a shirt on so that you can kind of see how his body is built, and also because magenta will approve of that. So the torso is 2 lines that curve inward toward each other at first and then back out a little for the hips. And as you may be able to see by the eraser marks, it took me a few tries to get mine to come out even. Next step is we want to do the arms. I always imagine Minax gesturing a lot when he talks, so I'm going to put his arms in a mid-gesture position, because that's more interesting than just having his arms on his sides, like he's not doing anything. So he's going to be gesturing. The shoulders are already kind of too broad, so put in some narrower shoulders, ignore the ones that are already there and put in new ones is what I did. And draw like this the top half of his arms. Note that your elbows kind of match up with where your waist is, so wherever his torso is the narrowest is about the part where his elbows should be at. Then the outer side of his forearms, the side that's further away from him, we probably want to erase the old shoulders now so they're not in the way, so I did that. Then we want to do the inner part of his forearms that are closer to his body. You can see that they overlap part of the arm that we already drew, and we'll erase that soon. Then we're going to do hands. Those are a freaking pain in the ass. I hate hands. I'm not good at hands. These hands will not be good. Okay. So we're going to start with the thumb. The thumb is closest to your body. That seems obvious, but when I first started drawing, I drew hands backwards with the thumb out. So when your hand is in its regular position, the thumb is closest to the body. If you need to look at a thumb, you have thumbs. I always find that pretty handy. Oh my god, I just made a pun. Handy. Thumbs are handy. Okay, moving on. Here's the rest of the fingers. Note that there's a palm. Fingers don't come right out of the wrist, which is another mistake that I always used to make, because there was never a palm, there was just fingers. His fingers are open. He's gesturing because he's talking. You can look at your own fingers and kind of note their length in relation to each other. Everyone knows the middle finger is the longest. Ring finger and index finger are kind of the same. The ring finger is a little longer. Pinky is small. So there's your fingers. And so erase the overlapped part of the arms. Did I make a picture? I don't even remember what pictures I made. I'm just looking at my notes while I'm talking. So, yeah, erase the overlap part of the arms, because my notes say to tell you that, so I'm telling you that. Now we need to figure out how far down his crotch goes. Yes, we're going to use the word crotch here. This kind of reminds me of the time that I was in a plushie making conference, I guess you could call it. And she had us yell the word crotch in the beginning so that whenever she said the word crotch later on, we wouldn't giggle anymore. So, ready, set, crotch! Okay. Now that that's over with, here, some time to giggle at the word crotch if you are so inclined. So we're going to add some details to his torso, and so that we can use them as kind of a marker for how far down the crotch is going to go. Since Minax is really skinny, you can kind of draw like some collarbones because they'll stand out on him. His chest kind of curves inward, like, I don't know, based on, like, the way his model looks. He has, like, a weird chest. I don't know, it curves inward, so it looks like there's kind of, like, it looks like someone hit him or something. I don't know. So, I drew kind of an upside-down Y shape for that. He is, like, a little bit of stomach tone, but he doesn't have, like, abs like Dai does. He just has a little bit of tone, so I just kind of drew a wavy line for that. At this point, I noticed that I made him a little bit broader than I want him to be. He looks like too square and too masculine for himself, so I adjusted his waist a little bit to make him more of a delicate little flower, like he is. He's a delicate little flower, so I did that. Now, here's the crotch. This is where it goes. Don't worry, I'm gonna give him pants. I don't think I could draw him with no pants. That would just be weird. Here's how his thighs will look, and since he's so skinny, he has a thigh gap, which honestly I think most people don't have that, even people that are skinny, but he's skinny, so he has one. And we're gonna start pants now, so that when other people are looking over our shoulders, they don't think we're drawing a naked person. Pants. Here's like the waistline of his pants. They're low on his hips. Add 2 lines on each side, so 4 lines total, that kind of symbolize the belt loops. And another 2 lines in the center for like the fly, and then just draw and color in a little dot for the button that closes up the pants. Okay, the bottom of his legs are about the same length as the top of his legs. I decided to give him boot cut pants because he usually wears boots, and also because boot cut pants are like easier to draw than other kinds of pants. So the bottoms of the pants kind of flare out a little bit. Not a lot. They're not like flares, but boot cut. And I noticed I'm kind of running out of space at the bottom of the page, so we're not really going to get into feet or shoes, but I'm not going to start over just because of that. So, moving on. Here's some detail on the pants. They're kind of tight pants, so this kind of detail makes them look like tight pants. They kind of bunch inward around the crotch and around the knees, and kind of wrinkle vertically as they flare out, like the details on the thighs and the knees are kind of horizontal, but the details on the bottom of the pants are more vertical. I closed off the pants, and I added as much shoes as I can fit. His feet are kind of pointing away from each other. You don't want to make him like pigeon-toed with his feet pointing towards each other. One of the feet is pointing more outward, and the other one is pointing more forward. That's up to you. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not good at feet, and I don't even have enough space to try. Moving on. We're going to do face and hair now. So, as I predicted in the beginning, his head is too big, so I made it smaller. I basically just kept the jawline and erased the top of the head, and made it smaller. Losing track of all my notes. Next, we're going to start the hair, and we're going to draw the front of it first. Minax doesn't have any bangs, but he has a noticeable little widow's peak type thingy, and long wavy hair that covers his ears, so I'm just going to draw his widow's peak and the wavy part of his hair covering where his ears would go, so we don't have to draw ears. Woo! And let's erase the top of his head now because we're going to cover it with hair. So I did a picture of that. I'm not really sure why I did that, but that's what I did. Now we're going to draw the top part of his 2 locks of hair. They don't touch in the middle because they're like, I don't know, they don't touch in the middle. They just don't. And they overlap his shoulders, which I realized later on that I forgot to fix that part. So there's going to be a mistake there for quite a while. I didn't fix it until the very end. Then we're going to draw his horns because they stick out above that section of his hair. They curve toward each other. They're not very big unless he's in his full demon form, in which they like kind of turn into giant sheepy curly horns. But we're not drawing that, so draw little tiny nubby horns that curve toward each other. And between his horns is the back of his hair. There's a point in the middle where it's all coming from, so kind of scribble a bit to indicate that that's where all of his hair is like branching out from. Now we're going to add the rest of his hair. This is always fun. I like drawing. I used to hate drawing his hair, but I got used to it the more that I drew him. His hair kind of goes in a lot of directions, so you can pick which directions you want his hair to go. It can curl upward, it can stick out, it can go, most of it just kind of goes down, because obviously most of your hair just kind of grows downward, but if it's curly, sometimes it curls up a little bit. I usually draw at least 1 curl on each side of his head, curling upward, so that it looks balanced, like, I don't know, like on one side it curls up, and then on the other side it curls up too. And face time. Judging by the pose of his arms is kind of like a happy, talkative pose. I'm imagining his face is probably going to be a smug look to match his arms. So, draw the top and bottom of his eye, which are kind of curving inward toward each other because his eye is kind of like partially shut. You know how like when you smile, your eye kind of scrunches up a little bit, so if he's going to smile, his eye needs to look a little bit scrunched. And the fun part about Minax is we don't have to worry about making both his eyes even, because he only has one. So, we're going to give him, like, the medical kind of eye patch, like the gauzy, plasticky kind, instead of a piratey one. I don't know, I imagine he has both, and depending on his mood, he switches in between them. So, today's a plasticky one day. So it's basically just a box with a smaller box in it over where would be the other eye. Then we want to draw the 2 straps that hold his eye patch to his head, because this kind of eye patch usually has 2 straps instead of just one, like a piratey looking one. So we do those 2 lines above and below his other eye. And then we're going to do the inside of his eye, which is round, the iris, 2 little white spots where, like, you know, the light is hitting in, like, typical anime style. That kind of gives the eye more brightness, and then the pupil of his eye is right in the middle, obviously. Let's give him a lopsided smirk that's kind of like not centered, because kind of like, you know, smirking is not really centered. And so I gave him his fangs poking out. He has fangs. Dai has fangs too. Magenta has fangs too. I don't know. They have fangs. Not like super fangy fangs, but some fangs. His eyebrows are kind of pointed downward in like a mean kind of look. Like kind of like angry eyebrows, even though he's happy, he permanently has angry eyebrows, I think, pretty much. And do kind of thick lines, because I imagine he has kind of thick, bushy-ish eyebrows. Not really bushy, but, you know, thicker than if he were drawing, say, Magenta, who would have her nice, narrow, little, plucked eyebrows. And let's throw a nose in there. It's just a small little line indicating, like, the tip. I'm not good at noses, and I usually think that even if I do draw a good nose, it doesn't look like my drawing anymore, so I usually just kind of go light on the nose. Now, tail. Of course he has a tail, so from his lower back, right above his butt and below his back, start a curving line from that point and go wherever you really want with it, because it's long. add the other side of the tail as a matching line, but since it gets narrower as it goes on, you probably kind of want to bring them close together toward the end of that. And his tail has a sharp barbed tip, which is basically like the tip of an arrow, so draw like an arrow and then a bigger arrow that goes outside of it. And I figured I would throw a shirt on him at this point, since he's Minax, and he's, for some reason, even though he's like a complete man whore, he doesn't like being shirtless. Probably because Dai is always shirtless, so he feels the need to differentiate himself. So he wants to wear a shirt. We're going to give him a shirt. Here's a U shape for the collar. A little line on each arm for the sleeves. We're just giving him a regular t-shirt, nothing fancy. And a line down over his pants where the shirt will overlap his pants. Almost done. And now since his shirt is kind of covering his chest and his stomach, you don't need the details there, so you can erase. And I just kind of thickened the lines of his sleeves so that it doesn't look like they're completely stuck to his arms, just kind of like make it look thicker. Some of these pictures came out really freaking blurry, and you can't really see much. This is one of them. Then I add some shirt details, like the same as you would do with the pants. A little bit to make the shirt look fitted, and then put some like lines in the armpit, basically, where the fabric is like gathered. And I noticed a mistake with this that I haven't fixed yet. I bet, let's see, can you figure out what the mistake is? I know I said it before, but I still haven't fixed it yet. It's that his hair and his shirt are still overlapping each other. I didn't erase the shirt from behind his hair, so I'm going to do that now. And now we're done. Woo! You should totally post yours. Also, obviously, if you want to go back and rewatch and pause at any part that you want to copy better, go for it. And when you're done, I want to see what you did. No pressure. Yay! Thank you for watching my stupid drawing tutorial.